Hello, everyone. Welcome to today's episode of Sunday Messages. I'm going to take a moment to talk about the equinox with you today. This is one of my favorite times of year. Of course, we get two of them. And if you've been on Earth for any amount of time, then I'm sure you notice that there's a pretty dramatic energetic shift that comes around when we transition into spring and when we transition into fall. And it's one of my favorite energies to really capture and capitalize on. And so we're going to be talking about that today. And I'm going to try to keep this quick. I'm going to try to keep it brief. So the first thing that I want to mention is I do have equinox meditations. Last year, I put out the fall equinox meditation or the autumn equinox meditation, and it was my biggest live meditation that I've ever done. Of course, the recording is available now, but people loved it. So if you got that from me last year, I would bust that out, go listen to it. 'Tis the season. And if you're in the Southern Hemisphere, I have a spring equinox meditation as well. So you can go check that out. Go get it, go listen to it, go enjoy it. And I really made those meditations specific for this transition. So they feel very story-like. In particular, the autumn equinox meditation is like a cozy autumn story. It's like an interactive story time. So it's very, very fun. It was a smash hit last year. So go check those out. Okay, so that's number one. Number two, one of the things that I've noticed, because of course it's Apex season, the doors to Apex close in 5 days. They close on September 22nd. You need to be in the container by then. And one of the interesting things that I didn't even realize until recently was I made the decision that I would add a prep week. Like, not, yeah, we're going to have a prep call sometime the week before, but I actually decided that it would be a week long of prep. So an additional week has been added to Apex. And that's when you get all set up for the container. You identify what you're going to be doing, because there's a lot to map out before you actually go through the protocol. You watch the consumption fast workshop, you get everything set up for that, because consumption fasting does require a certain level of preparation. So you're going to be doing that during prep week. We have a call during prep week. And since I've added this, the thing that I realized was the equinox, so the day that we transition seasons, is the first day of the prep week. So the first, as soon as Apex starts, with the preparation, we've hit that fresh season. And I just feel like that is so perfect for all of this. It's like perfect. It's just divinely orchestrated, is all I have to say. So I just noticed that the equinoxes really do have this, they facilitate this energetic shift that I love capitalizing on. And one of the interesting things that I reflect on is that Apex could have come to me at any point, right? Because I've described to you how the protocol was literally downloaded into my mind. It was like a lightning bolt of inspiration, and I started jotting everything down in a notebook back in 2021. And it was specifically, okay, the October 1st start date. This was years ago. And then when I started doing the second round each year, I noticed that they started to correlate with the equinoxes in particular. And I just thought that was so interesting, because I have always felt physiologically that the most significant energetic shifts are when we are in an equinox, right? That tipping point where you can really feel your physical body change. Some of you might know when it shifts into springtime, you start getting maybe a little bit more agitated. You start to get that like spring fever. I want to go outside. The foods that I am guided to or that I'm craving start to change. You may have listened to me. This was sometime over the spring. I ended up texting a friend. I'm like, "Hey, do you know anything about craving sour stuff? Like, I want to drink a pint of vinegar right now. All I want is sour everything. I want sour candy. I want vinegar. I want lemonade. Give me as much acid as possible." Basically. And she was like, "Oh yeah, that's a spring thing. That's like the seasonal flavor. And it's connected to the liver." And she kind of explained the Chinese medicine reason behind my craving of sour stuff. But it really gets me thinking every time this time of year comes around, how much we are an extension of nature and how much we are an extension of the universe. Because there is this collective rhythm that we're tapped into. And it's just a beautiful thing to work with. And it doesn't matter on what level you experience this, right? If you experience, your womanhood through, for example, through like your menstrual flow, like there's this seasonal experience that you're having every single month where you're experiencing the natural peaks and valleys of your physical body. But it's also interesting how connected we are to the seasons and how connected we are to light. If you really think about it, we are light. So it would make sense as the light changes, we also change. As the seasons change, we are experiencing a physiological response to it. And I freaking love that. Because there's almost like this naturally occurring guidance where, for example, we're transitioning into autumn right now in the Northern Hemisphere. And there's this desire to go deeper. There's this desire for introspection. There's this desire for stillness and reflection. And this internal depth that I can feel myself and the people around me are really beginning to crave. It's almost this craving for intimacy that's occurring. And I just think that I'm finding the words for this. It's one of those things where when you learn how to really harness the rhythm of nature and you're staying connected to it within your own body, it's like this is so cliche. It's like you being one with the cosmos or you being one with the earth is something that it's like life cannot possibly get any richer than that. And one of the things that I really like using the equinoxes for, specifically like this, the fall and the spring seasons in particular, is using them as a time to clarify. And this is perfectly lined up with what we do in Apex, because Apex is the ultimate clarification intensive. That's really what we're doing. We're clarifying the body, we're clarifying the mind, we're clarifying your intuition, we're clarifying your connection to God, we're clarifying your values, clarifying your priorities, clarifying what you want to devote yourself to during this season. There's such deep clarification and purification that takes place during these containers. And this is also why I think Apex has chosen to connect itself to the equinoxes. So I've been just kind of basking in the perfection of how all of this has been orchestrated and how all of this has come to be. Over the years, it's like, oh, that's a funny coincidence. But now going into my 5th round, holy shit, still can't believe it's my 5th time running this. It's just wild to see what it does time and time and time again, and how ready I am personally. Again, this is one of those containers where I do every single thing start to finish with the group. And I just, my wish for everyone who listens to this is that you get to experience the level of clarity and purification of self that I'm telepathically communicating to you now. Like that level of depth and clarity and crispness, that there's nothing like it. There's nothing like it. It's so whether you be in the emergence of spring, where you're feeling the heat come back online, you're feeling the light kick back on within your body, because that's really what spring is. It's like the pilot has come online. You know, the heat has been activated. There's now this drive to emerge and be visible and be seen. And there's like this explosive energy to spring. So it's exactly like that. Those fresh buds, if you will, or the fresh sprouts of everything. So the springtime is a beautiful time to initiate. And I know that a lot of people associate initiation with the new year. But in reality, if you were to remain connected to the light itself, the source of light itself, the best time to initiate is actually spring. It's when the light returns. And so for those in the Southern Hemisphere, now is the time. Now is the time for you to be initiating, clarifying, moving on things that you've been wanting to move on, right? Going bigger, going bolder. This is the time. It's also the time to experiment and start something fresh. Think fresh. Like if you could just walk around and contemplate what feels really fresh to me, that's a great way to just kind of calibrate your compass, is to freshness. Now in the Northern Hemisphere, shifting into this introspective depth that we're going into, this is more of a time to allow yourself to compost what is no longer working. Like leave things alone. This is more of like a thinking about it in terms of cutting things off or ending things isn't quite the right flavor of what I'm trying to describe. It's this organic letting things die, even in terms of behaviors and thought forms and all that stuff, just letting it die, letting it organically fall off. There's a natural pruning that occurs all the time. If you are not focused and actively giving something energy, it will die. It will just become diminished. And so if you can just allow yourself to double down on what purely feels good to you, and focus on, okay, what do I actually want to stick around? What do I want to continue doing? What do I want more of? And you allow all the rest to fade into the background and just go back to wherever it's needed. And I know this sounds kind of abstract, but there's no way for me to speak about general energetic concepts specifically in this moment, because I'm speaking with really broad strokes here to just give you an idea of what this time, what opportunity is really held within this time. And it is to allow a natural pruning to occur. It's allowing things to phase out, which is what they naturally want to do. There's no forcing involved. So many people are confused by the idea of this energetic death. Death is not inherently violent. It's not about cutting things out and bringing things to an end and closing that chapter and cutting that person off. That's dramatic. And most of the time, when we're thinking of death, when you're thinking about trees turning to fall, that's such a clunky way to say that. When you're thinking about the seasons changing and when you're thinking about the leaves falling to the ground, you're not thinking about a violent death. You're thinking about this beautiful symbolic change, this natural evolution that the trees are going through. There's nothing barbaric involved in that. There's nothing violent about that. It's quite peaceful. And when people think of letting things die away, letting things fade into the background, they're overly concerned with like the pain of the experience. When in reality, allowing things to fade into the background, allowing them to die, allowing them to be composted is not painful. If you're staying in alignment, this is not inherently painful. And this is the part that people are really missing. Is I can feel the collective when I talk about these things. There's like this contraction and like, what do I have to let go of? And it's like acting as if letting go of something that you don't like and don't resonate with is a terrible idea, is silly. That's silly. In the same way, when I'm taking people through fasts or the Apex protocol, depending on what's going on, what the context is, it's so funny how when people let go of something that has been a source of like being really rough on their nervous system, social media, TikTok, things like that, when they let go of it, that's not painful. It's a little clunky at first, just in terms of like, well, I'm habitually grabbing at things and wanting things, and I'm like acting out of habit and then having to resist my habit. That's where the discomfort comes in. But then a couple weeks into the fast, people are like, I do not miss it. I don't miss it. I'm not craving it. I'm not thirsty to consume. Because what has been let go of was actually a source of discomfort. And when you let go of a source of discomfort, whether that be your own thoughts are a big one. Beliefs are a big one. If you're thinking things over and over and over again that are inflicting pain on you and you let that go, that is not going to be a painful experience. As a matter of fact, you're going to feel a lot better. So if we can start to associate the death process, this natural death cycle that we're connected to, because we have the death and rebirth and we're going through it all the time. We have these beautiful milestones that occur twice a year that help us anchor into our own evolution. It's a physical extension of our evolution. And it reminds us to put extra awareness on these things that are seasonally and rhythmically appropriate for our physical bodies. So when you are contemplating letting go of things, there is this misconception that people hold on to things to keep themselves safe, or they're holding on to things to stay comfortable. That's a crock of shit. There are so many beliefs that so many people have right now that are not helpful, that are not safe, and that are not comfortable. People holding on to this constant fear of running out of money. Okay, if that's chronic, that's not safe, that's not comfortable, that's not proactive, that's not helpful, that's not, aside from the flip side of that, getting stronger and stronger and stronger, aka your desire for money getting stronger and stronger and stronger, it at a certain point there's a cap on how much that serves you. I won't say that it doesn't serve you at all, but there's a limit to how beneficial that belief is. You see what I'm saying? So when people present this false story of, well, I'm doing it to be safe, or I'm doing it because it's comfortable. No, it's not. No, the fuck it is not. You're not comfortable with any of this. You've just practiced it a lot. It's habitual. That's different. You not allowing yourself to be blasted open with love or allowing good things into your life is not safe. You clinging to dear life to negative expectations of yourself and the people around you is not safe, and it's not comfortable, and it's not good for you. And instead, if you could treat these things like leaves falling to the ground, you'd probably be a lot better off. And how this natural pruning can occur is when you start refining your focus and committing more to what you do want to focus on, where you do want to place your attention, what you do want more of, what you do appreciate, what you like having around. What in your life feels so good that you just want it to exist forever? See, if it's springtime where you are, if you're heading into spring right now, you can kind of go hog wild with all of this fresh stuff. New, 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 new. Oh, I'm going to try the new thing. I'm going to go to the fresh place. I'm going to experiment with this new thing. I'm going to try this out. I'm going to try that out. It's the time to be doing that. If you're in the Northern Hemisphere, then this is more about, can we refine and contemplate what is already in existence that we can deepen and be present with as we allow the things that we have outgrown to just fall to the ground like the leaves that they are, like the crusty, crunchy leaves that they are. That is not painful. As a matter of fact, it's quite beautiful. So this is what we're all connected to, whether we like it or not. It's simply a matter of, do you want to ride the wave? Do you want to use the energy? Do you want to use the seasons to your advantage? I'm a big fan of that because you are an extension of nature. You're a part of this. There's no separation. And this is one of the wonderful things about nature modeling for us. So instead of looking to other humans that have their own bullshit, their own baggage and processes, if you can use nature as the inspiration during this time, it's really wonderful. It's a wonderful time. This is also, I have a really soft spot in my heart for the fall round of Apex, just because, that was the first. And it was such a time of me keeping it simple, like getting back to basics. And that's something that I really, really, really loved about that first round in particular, because I didn't have very much stuff going on at the time. The second fall round was a bit different because my life was much more full. I had more things going on. Work was way busier. There was just a lot going on. That was the third round. So what I love about it is that it's about refinement. And the spring round feels more like a push because that's what's seasonally appropriate. But the fall round is what feels like this satisfying palate cleanser. Like I get really into cooking every single fall round. I go deep, deep, deep into making like a lot of soups, a lot of warm food. And that's my shit. Every single time making comfort food, warm foods, that is my favorite thing to do. Soups, I can make soups 5 days a week. Honestly, if I had it my way, I would be making soup all the time. So it's just this beautiful time for clarification, getting back to basics, going simple, keeping it I'm trying to describe this image that I have in my mind right now. It's like getting so much satisfaction out of the basics that you can't help but fall in love with your life. Springtime, we don't want to do that. Springtime, it's like we're like jittery with anticipation to go like tap into the fullness of life around us. Where autumn, I don't know, there's just something that really makes you focus inward and focus on what already exists and what is already around you and what is available to you now. And it adds this layer of appreciation that is not as immediately available. It is, but it can be more distracting in the springtime. I love them both. I just have a sweet spot for the autumn apex session, if you will. The autumn rounds are my favorite. What else do I want to say about this? Let me just tune in and see if there's anything else I want to add here. Northern Hemisphere friends, this is not the time to push. You're not gonna find as much easeful growth through pushing. If you are in the Southern Hemisphere, you will. This is like the go get it time. So there's a different response that you're going to be having. But what you'll find if you're in the Northern Hemisphere, refinement is where the greatest amount of growth happens. So if you refine, focus on what is wanted, focus on refining what is, what already exists, what's already going on. Narrow your focus. You're just going to find a lot of momentum comes from that practice. So just keep that with you. Push less, refine more. Refine what you already have. And that is really going to serve you during this time. All right, friends, I'm going to go ahead and wrap up. Of course, this is the 5th round of Apex. If you are wanting to get inside, please go apply. The link is in the description box or the show notes. Or if you're on Instagram, you can find it in my bio. We start officially, prep week starts on the 23rd. Applications close on the 22nd. So if you are all in, if you are ready, go check out the testimonials. They are epic. They're amazing. It is, oh God, my favorite time of year. I could gush about Apex for hours and hours and hours. So if you feel the call, go check out the Apex playlist. If you want to get more info, if you want to feel into it, if you have any questions, please reach out. And that is all for now, everyone. Have a beautiful, beautiful equinox, and I will talk to you next time. Bye.